Hey y'all, welcome to a book launch, the Texas Sisters Press book launch. For those who know what goes on in a book launch, all you have to do is comment from each one of those lovely authors that are here today. Who we have Miss Lydia LM Mann, Mr. Michael Wigington, Ethan Cooper, and the star of the show, Mr. Jeff Cregg. Take it
Hello.
away, Lyd.
Well, we are super excited to be here to celebrate Jeff and his brand new book, An Emerging Truth. Emergent Truth has been in the works for a couple of years, hadn't it, Jeff? So,
Longer than that, actually. Yeah.
yeah. So, just kind of give us a quick introduction of who you are and kind of how you got into this writing gig, and then we'll kind of go around the circle and introduce the rest of the crew.
Okay. Jeff Cregg. I'm a retired software developer. Was in the oil exploration industry, but always been a sci-fi fan ever since the late '60s. I was telling CJ earlier, the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey had a pretty big effect on me when I was a kid, 8 years old, and that's really when I developed a deep interest in science fiction. Later in years, I wanted to marry that information with computer science and Christian literature, and so I had some ideas kicking around late in my career, and finally, about 7 years ago, I decided to put pen to paper and see what came out, and the result is An Emergent Truth.
Very, very cool. I was lucky enough to read an earlier version of your manuscript, and so I found it quite interesting. Your sort of exploration of artificial intelligence and intelligent design, and you ask some big questions, which are really really cool. So anyway, we're going to get back to you, Jeff, but we got to introduce the rest of our guests here tonight. So Ethan, unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about you and how you got into this writing gig.
All right. Well, thanks for inviting me along for this, and I'm glad we can support Jeff. My name is Ethan Cooper, and I am a horror sci-fi author. And so, my writing journey began as probably a lot of younger in life. Mainly my just came out of reading, especially reading a lot of comic books. So I really got into that cliffhanger aspect of storytelling. Anyway, later on in life, with the advent of self-publishing, I was writing stories for myself, but somewhere along the line, you realize that, hey, I may not want to go a traditional publishing route, but the tools are all out there that I can do this for myself. And so that's sort of where that began. And so that's sort of where I started, and that has evolved into a couple novels and short story collections, so far. So
Awesome.
Very, very cool. Well, all right, Michael, let's get you introduced.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Michael Wigington. I live in Tyler, Texas, and got started into writing when I was kind of dabbling in it, and I let my now wife read a little excerpt from it, and she was like, "I can see that in my head. You're a writer," so that really boosted my confidence to let me keep pressing on, and that's what I did, and now I've got 3 books published.
Very cool. Very
Miss
cool.
Lydia, what about you?
Well, I write for the little kids, the illustrated books. Some of them rhyme, some of them don't, and that's tons of fun. And then I also write for sort of that middle grade YA age group, and I have a fantasy that it's called The Nightmare King, Shadow of Dragons 1, and working on sequels. And anybody that knows me personally knows that the last few years have been a bit of ups and downs in my life. So life kind of got in the way of writing, but it's totally fun now to be back, being able to begin to focus on getting those stories out of my head and onto paper. And so we'll see how quickly these sequels come. So CJ, let's hear about you.
Well, for those who know me, I am more of a big people writer, but I'm actually a multi-genre writer. I do write for little people too. So I'm an 8-time award-winning author of their Christian fiction, but I tell people they're not your mama's Christian fiction. There's 16 novels, 1 novella. I'm in 3 anthologies, and I have 2 children's books, and I'm working on another. Um, my Christian fiction sci-fi, which kind of goes with this stuff, is Appointed Time. It's a Sands of Time trilogy, which I'm super excited to talk about later. So
Very, very cool. So let's circle back around. And Ethan, let's let you talk for a little bit. Go into a little more depth on your books and how people can find you and that sort of thing.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Yeah, my website is ethanacooper.com. And and there you can find all my books and links to Amazon, which is the main thing. So, my love is sort of my love of writing and genre is really in 2 genres for the most part. It's sci-fi and horror. With I lean more towards horror and like what the movies I watch and the things I think about and the things I like to do. But in my writing, it's actually come out in sci-fi a little bit more. So my first novel here, this is actually the one I'm giving away, What Happened on My Space Vacation.
I love that title.
This is a novel that is near and dear to my heart. It actually, I didn't know I was writing a sort of a YA novel, but that's what it ended up being. But the reason it's near and dear to my heart is because this story idea didn't come from me. It came from my dad. Growing up, I would write stories and whatnot, and he always said, like, I had this idea for a story. It's about this family who goes on vacation to space. We're in a time where space travel, is very commonplace. He grew up, watching some of the greats in sci-fi over the past century. And, that sort of instilled that love in us through Star Trek and Star Wars and, radio dramas like X-1 and, things that we listened to and did with him. But over time and as he got older, it was clear that he wasn't going to write this novel, and actually he had Parkinson's, so he wasn't actually capable of writing the novel. So one day I said, Dad, I want to write this novel. I want to do it with you. I want your story ideas. So we went on a camping trip, and while we were driving, I just wrote down ideas he had. And then the next year for NaNoWriMo, or National Novel Writing Month, I hammered out basically the basics of that story. It took me a little bit longer to finish it, but he was very happy. It went in directions that he didn't expect and I didn't expect. But the biggest thing was I got to read that book to him before he passed, and so
nice.
That means that story has a special place in my heart. It's fun. It's exciting. It has all the elements that I love, cliffhangers and twists and so it follows a teenager, Maximilian, and his family. He doesn't want to go on this vacation. That was a feeling that I felt often going on vacations with my parents, and so I sort of tapped into that. And he's got a younger, annoying little sister, and stuff like that. So it's a fun, very friendly, family-friendly adventure. So that's the one I'll be giving away today. The other things I've done. I have a book called Song Quest, and this is it's a fantasy novel. I guess I wouldn't call it a novel. It's really a short story. It's something that's divided into like 10 pieces so that you can read it to your kids before bedtime. They're really short and it has a good moral. It's like a classic fairy tale. I just wanted to get something that was very wholesome and taught good lessons. And then, more into the horror genre, I have my clown horror novel, Fiddlesticks. Personally, clowns aren't that scary to me, but I know they are to a lot of people. So I wanted to tell a story about scary clowns with a twist. And then for my last big novel, this is my cyberpunk, futuristic, sci-fi, dystopian novel called Angel Descending. And this is a story like I started when I was in college with a couple of friends. Basically, we created this world, and we all sort of like each wrote a story from a certain person's point of view, and then they all sort of interacted. Well, as we all separated after graduating college, I sort of just continued the story from the character that I was writing, and I sort of wanted that story has never left me, and so this book is sort of part one of a multi-part series, and it includes the sci-fi concepts I love, very dystopian, a broken world, and it really tells the story of what does it take, to remain pure in a world that isn't. That novel was really my one for adults due to the content of it, but the lessons I think are the things we take away, into from our real lives and into this as we read this and see, how, because we all have this struggle. How do we navigate this world, especially, if you have certain beliefs or morals or things, it often seems like the world is against all of that. So those are sort of some of the aspects that I like to explore, when I'm writing.
Very cool. Now, I met you and your daughter at the Longview, Texas Library Chautauqua Festival, and you're actually passing your love of writing down to the next generation. Your daughter was, I think, 13 at the time that I met her.
Well, it depends. I'm trying to remember when the first time we met. It was either maybe 9 or 10.
2 or 3 out.
Okay, so yeah, she was no more than 11 for sure. She started when she was 9. She did Nano, and she's written 3 children's books basically. She at the time she really loved cats, and so these books are about cat adventures, and they are pretty awesome. And yeah, we're very proud of her for her dedication to that.
I have actually read a couple of her cat books, and I've read Angel Descending. So hurry up and do the sequel on that one.
Hey, cattle, ring, ring.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I totally understand. The second book is written. It's going through that horrible phase that many of us know, maybe all of us, the rewrite, where you're I already did this, and now I have to do it again, and it's hurting more this time. So yeah, that's where we are on that one.
So I have a question for you. There are generally 3 types of writers. There's your planners, which have like every detail already planned out. Your pantsers, which sit down and type, and your kind of hybrid, which is slightly a little bit of both. What kind of writer are you?
I'm a pretty big planner. Sometimes it depends on the scope, I guess. When it comes to Angel Descending, I realized that I had to have a plan, because you can't write a multi-book series without having some sort of plan. If you want to, like, for example, put surprises in book 1 that aren't revealed until book 3, for example, if you want it, you can pants the entire series for sure. But if you really want your reader to get that, oh, this guy knew what he was talking about, 2 books ago, then I have to plan out those. So due to the complicated nature.
Yes, I'm a pantser, and I actually had characters crossing over storylines in 4 different series.
You don't want to live in my sister's head.
You can't necessarily say that that's a hard and fast, because
that's true. Some people have, like CJ, I know her brain is, I don't know how to describe it. She's able to track so many things at once, and I am so not that way. If it's not written down, I am likely going to lose it. But yeah, I know CJ's mind is amazing.
It's a little bit of an ADD OCD mix sort of thing. It's kind of
something
fun.
Like that.
So remember, for those who are watching, like Mr. Trevor Delsor said, congratulations, Jeff, has actually had his name entered into the Wheel of Names. All you have to do is comment, even as simple as, hey, how you doing? Watching, congratulations. You'll be entered into the Wheel of Names to win some of those prizes, like the one that Ethan was talking about, his autographed copy of What Happened on My Space Vacation. So make sure to comment during this so we can get your name entered into the Wheel of Names.
Yeah.
One last thing on this book, which is reason that you want it, is it has artwork inside it, pictures done by hand by my brother at the time. So this is fully illustrated. There's about 10 interior illustrations.
Oh, neat!
So how fun is that?
It's more fun than our dry old novels that we do. So
very cool.
Very neat.
Okay. So are we gonna do a wheel, or are we gonna just keep going?
We could, but it would go to Trevor.
Okay, then let's just keep going. So Michael,
yes, ma'am.
You're on the hot seat. Okay. So let's talk about you've published 3 books. Is that correct?
Yes, 1 novel and 2 novellas. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk
And-
about that.
Yeah, I write, I guess you could primarily call it traditional fantasy, good versus evil. Is what I like to write. I don't like to have these real gray areas where you really can't tell if the bad guy's bad or the good guy. Maybe he's bad too, or maybe he's not the greatest person in the world. The whole kind of like Walter White, not a very good person. I can't write those characters. They just don't do anything for me. So my stuff's really going to be, it's going to have a clearly defined good guy, even if he's not perfect, and a clearly defined bad guy, and the bad guy will probably have no redeeming qualities. So, but I write traditional medieval fantasy. This is my novel. It's the first novel that I wrote, and I've got the second one. It's the first in the series. The second one is finished, but like Ethan, it's in rewrites, and that is not the easiest chore. Sequels are not easy, and the rewrites even harder. And also, I like to write poetry. You can find me at fantasyinmyveins.com, which has the links to all of my books on Amazon. You can look at the maps that I've made for the world that I created. I've got several different areas, and I've got a few more books, coming. All of my books are connected. They all come from the same world, even though they're in different places. And so some of one of my novellas is a legend from the novel that was about 800 to 1,000 years before the novel happened. So I like to interconnect things and weave them kind of all together so that everything's kind of like just connected and meshed, and throw in I guess what you could call it, an Easter egg or so. Maybe a character from, kind of like what CJ said, a character from one book will show up in another one, and then maybe that character will have his own book or something like that later on.
Very cool. So
Awesome.
how many books do you have at total, you said?
3. I've got 3 published, 1 novel, 2 novellas. The fourth book, second novel, is complete, and I'm 30,000 words into the 3rd book in that series. So, and then I've got other books started, and 20,000-30,000 words here or there into those books as well, but they're kind of on the back burner till I get this novel rewritten.
So what made you want to start actually publishing? I'm not gonna say writing, because as soon as you write a single word, you're a writer, but a publisher, being published.
Yeah, so I looked at traditional publishing, but getting an agent and then waiting 2 years before that agent could even find you a publisher did not appeal to me. I think that's kind of and I love to write, and I love to create a sense of the heroic. I grew up on stories of like Audie Murphy, and of course that's a real hero, and then going to see like Jason and the Argonauts, and so all of that stuff, and so that's what I really like to try to nail down, is give a reader a sense of the heroic, and stories, scenes just play in my head sometimes. I can be driving down the road listening to a song, and like a little movie pops up in my head, and it's like, okay, if I don't write that down, it's just going to keep replaying and drive me insane. So but a man named Caleb Pirtle talked me into publishing. I think most everybody here knows Caleb. But yeah, he was kind of a mentor, and he led me into the publishing part and self-publishing, because he was telling me about the problems that you get with traditional publishing and how long it takes. And even trying to find an agent could take a year. Then after they could take 2 years, and after that could be another year before the book is even published. You won't have control of the cover. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of maybe a little bit of a control freak. I want to have a say what the cover looks like. I want to have a say of what is and isn't in the book. I don't want to relinquish control to somebody else. If I want a certain point of view in the book, then it's going to have it.
So what book are you giving away today?
Oh, I'm giving away my first novel, The Bloodstone Reckoning. It's the first in the series.
And what's it about, just generally?
It's kind of a coming of age story of a young girl who, she's grown up with just her father, and he won't tell her, what happened to her mother, and she kind of treks out on her own to find out, what happened, or she kind of gets mad at him and storms out of the house, and has an encounter with a shape-shifting old crone who tells her that she has, that she has information about her mother and, the past and the future.
Ooh,
Very
nice.
interesting.
Well, remember, for those who are watching, all I have to do is comment, like Mr. Bob May just waved. Trevor said, congratulations. Just comment. Your name could be entered into the wheel names, and you can win some of these cool prizes we've been talking about.
Very, very cool.
Awesome.
All right, so I think we should bounce down to Jeff, the star of the show. So Jeff, let's talk about an emergent truth. Talk about how you there it is right there. Talk about, the process and how this idea came to you.
It's sort of it didn't come overnight. It was an idea that kind of percolated probably several months. It just got to the point where I had, like Ethan and like I said, you just get to the point where you have to write it down, right? And because the basic plot was hatched in my brain many years ago, and unlike CJ, I had to take notes. I can't, because my brain just doesn't hold that kind of information. First thing I did was sit down and write bullet point notes on maybe a half page. And then I thought, okay, now if I'm either going to do this or I'm not, because when I was in high school, I think in my bio, I mentioned that I wanted to write a book, a fiction novel, preferably science fiction. And like Ethan and Michael say, you get these ideas and you feel like you're about to explode if you don't get some way to express it. And having a way with words does help. So I guess it was about 7 years ago I actually started writing, because I had developed enough of the plot where I thought, okay, it's based on computer science and artificial intelligence, and it dips its foot into the realm of intelligent design. And it's a murder mystery. The first chapter opens with the death of a fellow who created the world's most elaborate and most powerful quantum artificially intelligent computer.
Awesome.
And yeah, and
can you tell us about the cover, because there's some interesting aspects on it?
The cover is, it's like a tri-mesh version of Rodin's The Thinker, and that's symbolic of artificial intelligence. And Lydia found that image, which is fantastic, because as you can see, his head's sort of disintegrating. And that's all. I'll tip my hand on at that point for what actually becomes of the artificial intelligence. The object he's looking at, I probably don't want to describe too deeply on that, because it's basically a cathode ray tube.
Which is a what?
A cathode ray tube, a television tube. It's a very primitive form of a television tube. Yeah. The old tube where you turn it on and you wait for it to warm up, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So you don't give away why that's important.
I'm not going to give away that.
There you go.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Yeah.
Those Doctor Who people, spoilers. So what about the eclipse up here?
That's also a major plot point. A turning point for the main character occurs during an eclipse. Probably don't want to. I mean, I can go a little deeper, but probably don't want to do that.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't.
So it's about midway through the novel, where an occurrence happens there, and he realizes that he's being taken down a journey that he really doesn't control at that point, and it's very, very interesting. So at least I thought it was.
I thought it was too, because I read it. So
okay, great.
Yeah.
So, but like Ethan and Michael were talking about, rewrites are the the hard part.
The bane of our existence.
About a year ago, yeah, I thought I was ready, but then I made the mistake, or I had the good fortune of having someone else in the intelligent design community read that first draft, and he was brutally frank, and I thought, okay, it's time to go back to not the drawing board, but we got to get this thing back in shape. And so, fortunately, I sat down after several weeks of a lot of deep thinking. It just, inspiration struck. I think I was in the shower, and I got out and I started making more notes in my original notepad. And about 6 months later, I finally got that original rewrite done. But then I also found a really good editor at my church who was just fantastic. She had a lot of insight, a lot of literary advice, and not as well as being a very good eagle eye on syntax and prose and that kind of stuff. And so all the pieces slowly fell back together. And so now I think, at the end of the last year, I said, okay, I think we're ready to go. So I got in contact with you, CJ and Lydia, and we got the ball rolling on getting it into print. So,
to find a good editor, they are worth their weight in gold.
Absolutely.
And I think everybody can give a shout out to whoever their editor is, because it makes you communicate what you are trying to communicate.
Yeah.
And honestly, the more brutal they are, the better they are.
Absolutely.
That sounds weird, but it's true.
Yeah. And that was the hardest truth to learn, was when having someone be frankly honest with you and say, okay, you really there's a really big weak spot in your plot here that it's either going to make it or break it.
Yeah, I mean, mine writes as if she's typing over my shoulder, and I've seen comments like, "What are you thinking here? This won't work. Try again."
Yeah, it's definitely a good wake up call to have someone kind of pull you back out of your own, not narcissistic, but your own self-involvement, I guess, because you have the concept in your brain, but trying to get that out where your audience can, as a whole, understand what you're trying to convey. That's the key.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I mean, it's been a great outlet to be able to express my understanding of artificial intelligence, how software is written in general. I spent 32 years in the industry. I know how software is written. I know how computers behave, and the software programmer is really the brains behind it. The computer does all the hard work, but the programmer is the one that if you don't have your logic right, then your program's not going to do what you want it to do. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, especially when you apply that to the realm of artificial intelligence, because at the end of the day, the computer is doing what it's being told to do. Exactly. So it may be able to go off and do things that you tell it, give it a vague idea to do, but at the end of the day, it's still bound to its own code. And that's kind of a theme in that I try to expose in the plot.
Definitely. Well, today you're going to be giving away 2 ebooks, one for the Emergent Truth. Both are for the Emergent Truth of 2 different people. Let me get that out correctly. So for those who are watching, please make sure to comment, at least say hi, congratulations, something along those lines, and you will be entered into the Wheel of Names, where you can win all these fantastic prizes that we've been talking about through this time. So, Miss Lydia, we'll jump on.
Well, I'm going to be giving away the audio book version of my middle grade / YA fantasy, The Nightmare King. And The Nightmare King was originally written, I started as a short story for my niece and nephew when they were kids. They're now grown. But
one of them has 2 of her own.
One of them has 2 of her own now. And so, but it was just kind of there were those things that I wanted to communicate to them about life And when you do it in a fantasy setting, I think one of my big heroes of writing is C.S. Lewis. You know, and not that I would ever compare myself to C.S. Lewis, but it's kind of that sort of Narnia type feel and theme. And you know, those life lessons of, you know, you're smarter than you think you are, you know, do the right thing even when it's hard. You know, those are the kind of life lessons that as writers, especially to younger people, that we can communicate in a story form. And it's, you know, the whole Mary Poppins thing, a spoonful of sugar makes medicine go down. You know, but it helps a young person imagine themselves in that situation. And I was, you know, I was a huge avid reader, still am. There was a time in my life, especially in sort of elementary, junior high years, if it didn't have a horse in it, I probably wasn't going to read it.
Well, dragons kind of an expectation.
And so dragons, I kind of went from horses and graduated up to dragons because I read my first Anne McCaffrey book when I was in the 9th grade, and it blew my mind. I was like, yay. So, you know, I was very blessed during the COVID shutdown of the world to meet up virtually with a very, very talented actress, Tess Primack. She's has been on Broadway before. And she recorded The Nightmare King for me, and it was amazing. Absolutely mind-blowing experience to hear the words that I had written, you know, characters that lived in my head come to life like that. And sort of her subtle interpretations and things like that. So I'm super excited about that project, and hopefully we will be working together in the future on sequels. So we shall see.
Any idea when book 2 might be working on yet?
You know, at this point, I don't want to make any promises.
Well, I know a lot of people have read it, and a lot of people are looking for book 2. So I don't know if you started it yet or not.
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's just like there's.
I've actually started 2 and 3. So
okay.
Yeah. But you know, it's just, I was one of those kids that grew up watching Star Trek and Star Wars and reading Asimov and, you know, all that stuff. So, you know, I fit right into the nerd club here. And, you know, and it's exciting. And I think one of the best things about science fiction, you know, fantasy too, but science fiction, it does, you know, science fiction has been struggling with the definition of humanity and what makes you human, and, you know, all of those deep questions that now we're starting to actually get to the point where we may actually be worried about it. AI, cloning, things like that.
I mean, how many times have you seen a news story where they're talking about AI cloning? Like, I read that story that did not end well.
Exactly.
I mean, all the sci-fi community is going, just don't do it.
Don't do that.
What's wrong with you?
Exactly. So that's one thing I love about sci-fi, and that's what one of the things I really liked about Jeff's book was it does sort of tackle those deep subjects. But in a very murder mystery journey type way. And, you know, he touches on the spiritual aspects of life and intelligence in that book. And, you know, made me think. So anyway. So that's me. And I write Little People book too.
I was going to say, you write more than that, though. You do.
Yeah, I write Little People books too. And just love it. And if I can get kids excited about reading, especially the younger they are, the younger a kid reads, I'm going to get on my soapbox, but our mom was a 6th grade teacher, so I'm allowed to. The younger a kid reads, the younger they're exposed to books, the better off they do academically and then just life in general.
So what got you started in publishing? Because you said you wrote this a long time ago.
I did. I let my younger sister read an early draft of The Nightmare King, and she kicked me in the tail end and said, publish this. So I did several rewrites after that point, had a couple of different editors take a look at it, did more rewrite, went on the publishing journey. So, and that actually taught CJ and I, along with her books, sort of how to publish a book and all of those wonderful intricacies of publishing. And so that's why we decided a couple of years ago to open Texas Sisters Press.
Texas Sisters
So
Press.
you actually published before CJ did?
No.
No, CJ did.
Oh,
this time the little sister got to lead the charge. I said, "You go learn all that stuff, and then I'll follow in your footsteps, little sister." So
and
she had published a couple of books, I think, by the time Nightmare King came out.
Let's see, 2015. I had done actually, I think 8.
Okay, or 8
by that point, yeah.
Whatever.
Because that was 2015, and I started publishing in 2012. So, yeah.
Not that we're counting or anything. Overachiever. Okay. Anyway, so CJ, let's toot your little horn for a little bit.
Okay. Well, before we jump into that, make sure those who are watching to comment, say hi, anything along the lines such as Trevor's Geeks Unite. He means Nerds Unite, or Bob May's UFOs. So.
Yes.
Your name.
By the way, does anybody watch Skinwalker Ranch on History Channel? Heck
no.
Yeah. It's aliens. I'm telling you, Michael, they're gonna find aliens.
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah, I agree.
There's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, it's too weird.
I'd want to see something called Skinwalker Ranch.
It's really, really
cool. You need to.
Check it out. Check it out. It's on the History Channel. Very, very cool.
Is it creepy? But I don't.
No, it's not creepy. It's just really, really cool. So anyway, all right. So CJ,
it's a little creepy.
A little creepy, yeah.
A little bit creepy. Mr. Raoul is here.
Hey, Raoul! Yay! All right. So CJ, let's talk about since it's sci-fi oriented tonight. Let's talk about your latest series that deals with genetic manipulation.
Yes. Okay, that's one of the books I'll be giving away as an ebook. It's a Point of Time, Sands of Time trilogy. I tell people that basically it's kind of like Stranger Things minus the Mind Flayer stuff, because I don't deal with that sort of stuff. But Stranger Things meets X-Men. So it's basically, the premise is that there's Professor Noah Roth has started doing experiments on babies under the guise of a fertility clinic. He's trying to generate this specific gene. And he picks women with little to no family, and he seeds the experiments himself. And there's a reason for that. Because it takes him about 20 years before he finally finds it starts to be viable, not only just a viable baby, but the gene itself is actually appearing in these babies. And the moms die of natural causes. For those who can't hear or see, I'm doing quotes. And since he's daddy, he has full legal right to the children. And 2 nurses figure this out, because it starts off with 4 of them who happen to be on the cover. And the 2 nurses take these 2, first 2, and they take them from the clinic in Maine to a small town in East Texas called Willow Bend. And that's where they raise them. So it's almost like a nature versus nurture situation. And little do they know that the professor is actually watching this to see what happens. And at the appointed time, which is book 1's title, he sends 2 of his strongest to get those 2 and bring them back to the clinic. And so I say things start to explode a little bit in appointed time. They actually start blowing up in Race Against Time, because they realize that there's more than just those 4. There actually are some in Maine, there's some in Wyoming, and then there's some in Oregon. So it's a race against time to see if these children can rescue their siblings from this professor. I'm just going to, sadistic professor. He's not a very nice guy. And so then they just pretty much go nuclear and out of time. And I'm not even going to tell a little bit about what happens there. But their gifts anywhere from telekinesis to telepathy to empaths to one that's like kin to a precog, where they can predict with 99.9% accuracy on what's going to happen next. So I'm pretty excited about this. A lot of the Comic-Con community is very excited about this. I've had a lot of people, that have been, what did he say? I wish Will have been existed. I've had a lot of people who, when the first book came out, they're like, I want all 3. And so we pretty much rushed them out. We did one in August, one in October, and the third one was in January. So for the Comic-Cons that we'll go to, they will be there. The guy in the bottom right is so cool. That's the one that's kin to the precog. So that's where I'm at.
Can I ask you a question, CJ?
Sure.
So it's sort of a loose amalgamation of Village of the Damned. What's that other one? I just lost it. Did you ever see that movie back in the 50s?
No, I'm not. Sorry.
I'm showing my age. Well, it was like a comet comes over, where a meteor hits a village in England, and all the children all the mothers that are pregnant at that time are affected, and all the children look alike, and they have these telekinetic powers. And
interesting.
so I didn't know if that was an influence on you or not.
No, not at all.
Well,
now she's gonna have to go find it online.
Yeah, really. What was that called?
It's called Village of the Damned.
Village of the Damned.
Yeah.
I think I know the movie you're talking about.
Yeah, it's old in black and white.
Yeah.
It's one of those British sci-fi, early sci-fis.
Huh. Very cool. No, I haven't seen it. So, any more questions? Oh, so I also have what we talked about earlier. Is I have, there's a single standalone. There's a set of 3, a set of 5, and a set of 4. That are called the Team Angel series, where it's the spiritual realm crosses into the physical. So where there's dark, there's light. Where there's angels, there's demons. The underlying group is called Angel, which is available to nurture God's eternal love. And they get their assignments from Michael the Archangel, who ships them out in the world to help people. And as I said before, the characters actually cross over storylines. So you get another part of a different character story in a different set of series. So it's kind of cool. You get to kind of grow with them.
Yep. So. Yep. So, are we ready to start spinning names?
We are. And I went ahead and added our names to them too, so we have more to share. But definitely those who have commented are going to get something. So we're going to try to share the correct screen.
Let's see if she can
share. Okay, can everybody see it?
Woo, yep. All right, so what are we spinning for?
Okay,
start with Ethan.
We're gonna start. Well, we started with Ethan, so we'll start with Ethan.
All right.
Remember, if you guys know who this person is, make sure you know it. And so Ethan's is an autographed copy of What Happened on My Space Vacation. And it looks like it's going to Lydia.
Yes! Hot diggity dog. I was ready to I was ready to order that book tonight.
Congratulations.
You already got
Thank
it.
You.
Okay, so Mr. Mike Wigington's autographed copy of the Bloodstone Reckoning. Here we go. I'd laugh if it was me. Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's Raul by a hair.
I'm glad this is the one that calls it, because I would not have been able to call that one.
No, I couldn't have called that one. Oh, that's very cool.
Awesome. So then we're going to jump over to the audio book for The Nightmare King. Goes to Jeff Cregg.
All right.
Yay! Cool. I hope you enjoyed it, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go to one of Jeff's ebooks of The Emergent Truth. We'll do one of those first. Well, I've already got it, so I'm going to keep spinning mine.
All right. Spin it again.
I'm going to close that, keep me on there.
Yep.
Well, actually, take me off, because the other one is me anyway.
Yep. There you go. All right.
Okay, so this is for one of Jeff's, The Emergent Truth. Goes to Mike.
Mike. Okay.
Woo. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoy it.
Awesome. So then we'll do the appointed time ebook of mine.
Okay. Oh, Bob May.
Looks like Bob May.
Who is also a Texas Sisters Press author and writes illustrated children's books. So you should check out Bob May's books if you have little ones.
Okay, I'm going to do Seasons of Change next. Which goes, it looks like, to Ethan.
Yay!
Yay. Awesome.
We get to start another season. And then, since we already have it, I'm going to give Craig Prestonese.
It's Preston Lindsay.
Prestonenzy.
He's going to get Jeff's other one.
Yay!
Because we have the physical copy of his other book.
All right. Very cool.
Excellent.
Yay. So congratulations, all the winners. One more time, we'll go through them real quick. Okay. We go through them real quick. We have the winners for Mike Wigington's autographed copy of The Bloodstone Reckoning goes to Raul Herrera. Raul, do me a favor and message me your physical address on Facebook. Ethan Cooper's What Happened on My Space Vacation to Lydia. Lydia, just send Ethan your address and he'll send it to you.
Yay.
For my ebooks, Seasons of Change is going to Ethan Cooper. Appointed Time is going to author Bob May. Lydia's The Nightmare King is going to, the audiobook is going to Jeff Cregg. So see, you even get a prize in your own book launch. How cool is that?
I know.
And then Jeff's ebooks, one of them goes to Mike Wigington and one goes to Craig. Ethan, go ahead and pronounce it again.
It's Preston Lindsay.
There you go. I didn't want to be mean and mess it up. So, sorry, Ethan, you had to translate my name is what he says.
Yeah.
So, Ethan, send me his email address so I can send those on to Jeff.
All right, I'll do that.
We have. Thank you guys so much for joining in the fun of a Texas Sisters Press book launch. We will have another one coming soon. I'm not sure which one of them is going to get here first, but it's going to be kind of lining up a little bit. So it's going to be a children's book, I believe, either way. So we're not sure which one's coming first. So stay tuned for next time for a children's book for a book launch for Texas Sisters Press. Thank you guys and enjoy your evening. Have a good